On a chilly morning in Sarnia, Ontario, on November 8, 2024, Faisal Raymond stood in the garage bay of Raymond Auto Repair, his small auto shop, tightening a lug nut on a Ford sedan, the clank of his wrench echoing in the concrete space. At 45, Faisal, a Pakistani Canadian, was a wiry man with a close-cropped beard and a steady gaze that concealed the strain of his daily grind. Sarnia, a city of 71,000 along the St. Clair River, was a gritty mix of industrial plants, waterfront trails, and quiet suburbs. Faisal had moved here 8 years ago with his wife, Aisha, 42, a part-time bookkeeper, and their 2 children, Zara, 17, and Yusuf, 14, seeking a stable life after Brampton's hustle. But the city's industrial hum carried a cold undercurrent, one Faisal felt as a brown-skinned Muslim in a mostly white community. Raymond Auto Repair, a modest shop on London Road, was Faisal's pride, its bays equipped for oil changes, tire rotations, and engine work. The shop, with its faded sign and a small waiting area with chai on offer, was a family effort. Aisha managed finances, Zara helped with scheduling after school, and Yusuf swept the floors. But prejudice crept in like grease on a rag. Customers like Ron Carver, a white truck driver, often questioned Faisal's diagnoses, saying, "You sure you know this engine?" Despite his 15 years as a mechanic. Local suppliers like Greg Larson at Sarnia Parts inflated prices, citing premium service fees that didn't hit other shops. Last month, a client, a white man in his 50s, had refused a repair, muttering, "I want a local guy." Faisal stayed polite, needing the business, but each slight was a splinter piling up. Today, as Faisal checked a brake line, Ron walked in, his boots heavy. "Faisal, my truck's still rattling," he said, leaning on the counter. "You fixed it last week, right?" His tone was sharp, eyes narrowing. Faisal's jaw tightened. He'd rebuilt the suspension himself, tested it twice. "It's solid, Ron. Let's check it. No charge." Ron's smirk said he doubted it. "Better be right. I don't trust foreign jobs." The word foreign was a jab, a code Faisal knew. Pakistani, Muslim, not one of us. He inspected the truck, found a loose bolt from Ron's own tinkering, and fixed it free. But Ron paid exact change, muttering, "Hope it holds this time." At lunch, Faisal ate roti Aisha had packed, alone in the shop's office. His friend Malik, a Somali-Canadian welder nearby, texted, "Ron giving you grief again?" Faisal replied, "Same old. You?" Malik's response was grim. "Client said I'm not their type." Smiled it off. Faisal sighed, their shared burden heavy. Aisha faced it too. Clients at her bookkeeping side gig questioning her accent, some switching to white accountants. Zara, at school, had mentioned a classmate, Ethan, avoiding her in group projects, whispering different. Yusuf overheard Ethan's turban kid jab at hockey. Faisal taught them strength, but the splinters were spreading. That afternoon, Faisal applied for a contract with a local trucking company, hoping to service their fleet for steady income. The manager, tied to Ron's social circle, reviewed Faisal's proposal, competitive rates, certified work, but declined, citing existing partnerships. Faisal's pitch was ignored, the manager's glance at his name a silent dismissal. He left, the contract lost, the shop's finances teetering with a $2,000 monthly shortfall. At home, a rented house on Indian Road, Faisal cooked biryani while Zara studied. Aisha, balancing her ledger, spoke softly. "The bank flagged our loan for high risk," she said. "They're stalling." Faisal's heart sank. The loan was vital for new equipment, and high risk was a code tied to their heritage. On November 9th, the exclusion deepened. Faisal met with the Sarnia Business Network, hoping to join for supplier discounts, but the chair, Ellen Whitaker, a white realtor in her 50s, brushed him off. "We prioritize established businesses," she said, her smile thin, Ron nodding in the background. At school, Zara was excluded from a debate team, Ethan chosen, the teacher citing team synergy. Yusuf's hockey teammates sidelined him, Ethan's outsider jab unchecked. Aisha's bookkeeping lost a client who emailed, "We need someone more aligned with our values." "It's a pattern," Aisha said, her voice breaking. "They're shutting us out." That night, Faisal and Aisha sat in their living room, their books open. "We fight back," Aisha said, her eyes fierce. "We find allies, new paths." Faisal nodded, his resolve firm but fear lingering. They were Pakistani Canadians, their shop a beacon, but Sarnia's walls were thick and their fight was just beginning. On November 10, 2024, Faisal Raymond stood in the cluttered office of Raymond Auto Repair, his auto shop in Sarnia, Ontario, reviewing a stack of unpaid invoices, the faint hum of a hydraulic lift drifting from the garage bay. At 45, Faisal, a Pakistani Canadian, felt the grinding weight of the past week, a rejected contract with a trucking company, inflated prices from supplier Greg Larson, and a bank flagging his loan as high risk. Sarnia's industrial skyline loomed. Outside, its chill carrying a venom that marginalized his family, wife Aisha, 42, daughter Zara, 17, and son Yusuf, 14, through coded slights and closed doors, threatening their shop and their place in this city of 71,000. Aisha, entering data into a laptop, looked up, her bookkeeper's eyes steady despite the strain. "Malik's friend in London can supply parts," she said, referencing their Somali-Canadian welder ally. "Cheaper than Larson?" Faisal nodded, his throat tight. Them, Ron Carver, Business Network chair, Ellen Whitaker, Greg, and their circle, weren't scrawling threats or smashing windows, but their barriers were just as real. Client distrust, supplier gouging, and school slights against Zara and Yusuf. The shop's revenue was down 25%, bays half empty, and proving bias was like chasing smoke. Faisal knew they had to forge a new path quietly to survive. The shop was quieter now, the exclusion's shadow driving customers away. Regulars like Mrs. Thompson now went to a chain garage citing better service, a polite mask for prejudice. At noon, Zara arrived from school, updating the schedule. "Dad, my group project team ditched me," she said, her voice low. "Ethan said I don't get the vibe." Faisal's stomach sank. Ethan's vibe was a jab at her Pakistani roots. "You're smarter than him, Zara," he said, his voice firm, but his hands shook as he tightened a bolt. Zara's eyes dimmed. "It's Ethan's dad, isn't it? He's with Ron." Faisal nodded, the pattern clear. Ron's client bias, Greg's price hikes, Ellen's gatekeeping. Ethan at Zara's school, a web of silent rejection. That afternoon, Faisal called Malik's contact, Hassan, a Pakistani-Canadian parts dealer in London, who agreed to supply tires and oil at fair rates. "Greg's been squeezing me too," Hassan said, his tone grim. "Stay tough." Faisal's hope flickered, but Greg's latest markup, brake pads priced 30% above market, cost $600 in overcharges. At school, Yusuf was benched at hockey, the coach citing team chemistry, Ethan's role secure. Aisha's bookkeeping lost another client who emailed, "We need someone who fits our culture." A local car wash, tied to Ellen, refused Faisal's repair referral, claiming, "No need." "They're cutting us off," Aisha said, her voice trembling. "Every road's blocked." On November 11th, the exclusion sharpened. Faisal pitched a maintenance deal to a local delivery firm, but the manager, linked to Ron, declined, citing proven vendors. Faisal's offer, lower rates, same-day service, was dismissed. The manager's glance at his surname a quiet rebuff. At home, Aisha faced a new blow. A third client dropped her, texting, "We prefer someone local." Yusuf's hockey teammates excluded him from a practice drill, Ethan's turban kid jab unchecked. Zara's debate team rejected her speech, Ethan's chosen, the teacher citing audience appeal. "They're erasing us," Faisal said, his voice low. "No threats, just voids." That evening, Faisal and Aisha met Malik and Hassan at a London diner, mapping a counter-strategy. They planned a joint service package, Hassan's parts, Malik's welding, Faisal's repairs, to pitch to independent truckers. Aisha proposed a social media page to showcase their work, Zara volunteering to run it. "We'll carve our own space," Aisha said, her eyes fierce. But the effort was a gamble. Sarnia's market leaned on Ellen's network, and their allies were few. Miss Patel, an Indian-Canadian nurse, texted, "Ellen's telling clients you're unreliable. Push back, Faisal." Faisal saved the message, his anger a slow burn, but fear lingered. Each step forward risked deeper isolation. On November 12th, the barriers tightened. A local fleet operator, swayed by Ron's contacts, canceled a trial repair order, costing $3,000 in revenue. The bank demanded additional collateral for the loan, citing financial instability. At school, Zara was overlooked for a scholarship. Ethan selected, the panel citing community alignment. Yusuf's coach cut him from a key game. Ethan's chemistry, excuse unchallenged. Aisha's bookkeeping faced a tax compliance check, tied to Ellen's ally at City Hall. "They're suffocating us," Aisha whispered, her voice breaking. Faisal took her hand, his voice steady. "We're not invisible. We fight for Zara, Yusuf, the shop." They were Pakistani Canadians, their roots deep, but Sarnia's walls were iron and their fight was reaching a breaking point. On November 13, 2024, Faisal Raymond stood in the grease-stained garage bay of Raymond Auto Repair, his auto shop in Sarnia, Ontario, his wrench turning a stubborn bolt on a Dodge pickup. Each twist a small act of defiance against the suffocating tide that threatened to drown his family's dreams. At 45, Faisal, a Pakistani Canadian, bore the weight of weeks of relentless exclusion, a rejected fleet contract with a trucking company, inflated prices from supplier Greg Larson that bled his margins dry, a bank loan stalled by a high-risk label, and a tax compliance check looming over Aisha's bookkeeping side gig. Sarnia's industrial sprawl, with its smokestacks piercing the gray November sky, seemed to mirror the cold, unyielding barriers that pushed his family, wife Aisha, 42, daughter Zara, 17, and son Yusuf, 14, to the edges of this city of 71,000. The shop's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on the concrete floor, a stark reminder of the silent venom that seeped into their lives through coated slights and closed doors. Aisha, hunched over a laptop in the shop's cramped office, her fingers tapping out an email to a potential new client, glanced up, her bookkeeper's eyes glinting with a fire that refused to dim. "Hassan's parts shipment arrives tomorrow," she said, her voice steady despite the strain etched into her face, referencing their new Pakistani-Canadian supplier from London. "Malik's referrals brought in 3 new customers this week, and I've got a lead on a Mississauga fleet manager who's open to a trial." Faisal exhaled, his chest loosening slightly at the news, though the knot of dread remained. Their makeshift network, Hassan's affordable parts, Malik's word of mouth, Aisha's outreach to immigrant businesses in nearby cities, was a fragile lifeline, a patchwork shield against the town's unyielding gatekeepers, Ron Carver's client distrust, Ellen Whitaker's business network rejections, Greg's predatory pricing, and the school slights that cut at Zara and Yusuf. The shop's revenue was down 35%, bays often idle, and every day felt like a battle to prove they belonged. Their fight waged in the quiet corners of Sarnia's industrial underbelly. The shop was a husk of its former bustle, the exclusion's chill driving customers away. Regulars like Mrs. Evans, who once praised Faisal's quick oil changes, now took their cars to a chain garage on Exmouth Street, citing faster turnaround, a polite veil for bias. New clients were scarce, deterred by whispers, spread by Ron and his ilk, that Raymond Auto Repair was not quite up to standard. At 1 p.m., Zara arrived from school, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her hands moving swiftly to update the shop's appointment log on an outdated desktop. "Dad, my history group excluded me again," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, her eyes fixed on the screen to hide the hurt. "Ethan said my ideas were too niche." Faisal's stomach churned. Ethan's niche was a coded jab at Zara's Pakistani heritage, a dismissal of her thoughtful analysis of South Asian migration. "You're brilliant, Zara," Faisal said, his voice firm but laced with a father's pain, his hands pausing on a tire iron. Zara's shoulders sagged, her reply soft. "It's Ethan's dad, isn't it? He's with Ron." Faisal nodded, the pattern as clear as the grease stains on his overalls. Ron's client prejudice, Greg's supply squeezes, Ellen's gatekeeping, Ethan's taunts at Zara's school, a web of rejection spun with smiles and excuses. That afternoon, Faisal drove to a meeting with a small logistics company in Karuna, a 15-minute trip across Sarnia's sprawling outskirts, hoping to secure a contract for monthly vehicle maintenance to offset the shop's losses. The owner, a gruff man named Ted, was a distant cousin of Ellen's, his office cluttered with fishing trophies and faded maps of Ontario's highways. Faisal laid out his proposal: competitive rates, certified technicians, same-day turnaround for critical repairs. Ted listened, his eyes flicking to Faisal's name tag, then shook his head. "We stick with known shops," he said, his tone final. "Got a good thing with Lakeside Auto." Faisal pressed, citing his 15 years of experience and glowing reviews from past clients. But Ted's smile was thin, his glance at Faisal's beard a silent verdict. "It's about trust," Ted added, the word heavy with implication. Faisal left, the contract lost. The shop's finances now a $3,500 monthly shortfall, each rejection a hammer blow to their survival. Back at the shop, Aisha shared her own setback. "Another client dropped me," she said, her voice low, her fingers pausing on the keyboard. "Said they need someone more in tune with local business." "That's 4 this month." Faisal's chest tightened. The pattern was relentless, a coordinated squeeze from Ron's social circle, Ellen's business network, and their allies. At school, Yusuf faced a new slight. His hockey coach reassigned him to a lower line, citing team synergy, while Ethan, less skilled, kept his spot. Ethan smirked, Yusuf said, his voice bitter, showing a bruise from a missed pass at practice. Zara's debate team teacher graded her speech lower than Ethan's identical one, claiming delivery issues despite her flawless presentation. "They don't see us," Aisha whispered, her eyes glistening. "We're ghosts in their world." On November 14th, Faisal and Aisha met Hassan and Malik at a diner in London, a 45-minute drive through Sarnia's industrial sprawl, to strengthen their network. The diner, with its chipped formica tables and flickering neon sign, was a neutral ground, far from Sarnia's prying eyes. Over steaming mugs of coffee and plates of pakoras, they mapped out a plan. Hassan would supply brakes and filters at cost. Malik would refer his welding clients to Faisal's shop, and Aisha would pitch their joint services to immigrant-owned businesses in Chatham. "We're building our own circle," Faisal said, his voice firm, though his hands betrayed a slight tremble as he stirred his chai. Malik, his welder's calluses rough against the mug, nodded. "Sarnia's tough, but we're tougher." Hassan shared a lead on a Windsor trucking cooperative open to minority-owned shops, a potential $5,000 monthly contract. Aisha proposed a social media campaign, photos of Faisal's repairs, Malik's welds, and Hassan's parts, to draw clients from beyond Sarnia's borders. Zara, who joined to take notes, suggested Instagram reels showcasing the shop's community service, like free tire checks for seniors. "We show who we are," she said, her eyes fierce despite the exhaustion in her voice. But the effort was a high-stakes gamble. Sarnia's economy leaned heavily on Ellen's business network, a tight-knit group of white owners who controlled everything from supplier deals to city contracts. Their allies, like Ron and Ethan's father, held sway in social circles, whispering doubts about foreign businesses to clients and neighbors. Back in Sarnia, Faisal faced a new blow. A major auto insurer, influenced by Ron's contacts, reduced reimbursements for Raymond Auto Repair, citing quality concerns, slashing weekly revenue by $1,500. Aisha's bookkeeping faced a second compliance review tied to Ellen's ally at City Hall, threatening a $1,000 fine. At school, Zara's scholarship application was rejected. Ethan chosen despite her higher GPA, the panel citing community engagement. Yusuf's hockey teammates froze him out during drills. Ethan's outsider jab, now a daily ritual, unchecked by the coach. "They're strangling us," Faisal said, his voice low, his hands clenching a wrench as he stood in the empty bay. No threats, just a slow choke. That evening, Faisal, Aisha, Zara, and Yusuf gathered in their Indian Road kitchen, the aroma of biryani filling the air, a fleeting reminder of home amidst the storm. "We're not ghosts," Aisha said, her voice ablade. "We fight, together." Zara, her eyes burning, proposed a website to showcase their services and community work, linking to Malik and Hassan's businesses. Yusuf offered to distribute flyers in Chatham's immigrant neighborhoods, targeting small fleets. Faisal suggested a meeting with Miss Patel's contact, a Toronto-based diversity advocate, to challenge the insurer's decision. The plan was a risk. Defying Ellen's network could deepen their isolation, and the shop's finances were a razor's edge, with only 2 months runway left. But Faisal's resolve flared, his family's strength a spark in the dark. They were Pakistani Canadians, their roots deep, but Sarnia's walls were steel, and their fight was teetering on a knife's edge. The dawn of November 15, 2024, broke over Sarnia, Ontario with a gray, heavy sky, the St. Clair River's mist curling through the city's industrial sprawl, its smokestacks looming like sentinels over a battlefield. Faisal Raymond stood in the garage bay of Raymond Auto Repair, his auto shop on London Road. His hands steady as he aligned a tire, the rhythmic clank of his wrench a defiant pulse against the suffocating tide that had nearly drowned his family's dreams. At 45, Faisal, a Pakistani Canadian, bore scars from weeks of relentless racism, a rejected fleet contract, supplier Greg Larson's predatory pricing, a bank loan stalled by high-risk labels, and a tax compliance check threatening Aisha's bookkeeping. Sarnia's gritty streets, lined with faded storefronts and rusted rail tracks, hid a venom that marginalized his family, wife Aisha, 42, daughter Zara, 17, and son Yusuf, 14, through coded slights and iron gates, pushing their shop to the brink and testing their place in the city of 71,000. Aisha sat in the shop's office, her laptop open to a spreadsheet tracking their dwindling revenue, her bookkeeper's fingers pausing as she glanced at Faisal through the glass partition, her eyes a mix of exhaustion and unyielding fire. Hassan's breaks came in at cost, she said, her voice steady despite the strain carved into her face, referencing their Pakistani Canadian supplier from London. Malik's referrals added 5 new clients and Zara's Instagram reel hit 2,000 views. Faisal's chest loosened, a flicker of hope piercing the dread that had settled like grease in his bones. Their network, Hassan's parts, Malik's word of mouth, Aisha's outreach to Chatham businesses, Zara's social media push, was a lifeline, a fragile bulwark against the town's gatekeepers, Ron Carver's client distrust, Ellen Whitaker's business network, rejections, Greg's supply squeezes, and the school slights wounding Zara and Yusuf. The shop's bays were half empty, revenue down 45%, and every day was a tightrope walk over a chasm of insolvency, their fight waged in the quiet, oil-stained corners of Sarnia's working-class heart. Culmination, the crisis peaked on November 16th, a cold, overcast morning that felt like a judgment. Faisal arrived at the shop to find a notice from the city, pinned to the office door by Ellen's ally at City Hall, a $4,000 fine for zoning violations. Citing unpermitted equipment upgrades Faisal had installed months ago, fully compliant at the time. The fine, due in 10 days, threatened closure if unpaid, a deliberate blow to cripple the shop. Aisha's bookkeeping faced a third compliance review, with a $1,500 penalty looming, tied to Ellen's network. At school, Zara was denied a leadership role in a student council. Ethan chosen despite her stronger record, the advisor citing community resonance. Yusuf was cut from a hockey tournament, the coach claiming skill mismatch. Ethan's spot, untouched, his smirk ablaze. A local courier service, swayed by Ron's whispers, canceled a $5,000 maintenance deal, citing reliability concerns. "They've trapped us," Aisha whispered, her voice cracking as she stood in the office, her hands trembling over the notice. "We're not just ghosts, we're prey." Faisal's heart pounded, a storm of rage and despair swirling in his chest, but he took Aisha's hand, his grip firm. "We're not prey," he said, his voice a low growl, raw with conviction. "We fight for Zara, Yusuf, the shop." That evening, the Raymonds gathered with Malik, Hassan, and Miss Patel, an Indian-Canadian nurse in their Indian Road kitchen, the air thick with the aroma of biryani and the weight of their defiance. Chai steamed in mismatched mugs, papers, and laptops scattered across the table, a war room born of necessity. "We're not invisible," Aisha said, her eyes blazing, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Zara, her fingers flying over her phone, reported their Instagram campaign. Reels of Faisal's repairs, Aisha's community service, and customer testimonials had surged to 8,000 views, drawing inquiries from Chatham truckers. Yusuf, clutching a stack of flyers, shared that his canvassing in Oshawa's immigrant shops had secured a $3,000 order for fleet maintenance. Aisha, her bookkeeping ledger open, outlined a joint pitch with Malik and Hassan to a Windsor cooperative, a $7,000 monthly contract within reach. Faisal proposed a meeting with Miss Chen, a Toronto diversity advocate, to challenge the zoning fine and insurers' cuts, armed with evidence of their shop's compliance and service record. The plan was a high-stakes gamble, a David and Goliath stand against Sarnia's entrenched powers. Ellen's network, with Ron and Ethan's father at its core, controlled the city's economic and social levers, their influence woven into every contract, every decision, every whispered doubt about foreign shops. But the Raymonds were done bending. On November 17th, Faisal drove to Sarnia City Hall, a squat brick building flanked by leafless maples, to confront Ellen at a business licensing hearing. The room, lined with wood paneling and faded civic plaques, was filled with local owners, Ron among them, his arms crossed, his smirk a silent challenge. Faisal stood, his suit pressed but his hands calloused, his voice calm but unyielding. "Your zoning fine targets us," he said, holding up the shop's compliance records, Hassan's contract, and screenshots of Zara's campaign, now at 12,000 views. "We've served Sarnia for 8 years with 0 violations. This isn't oversight, it's bias." Ellen's face tightened, her pen pausing, the room shifting uncomfortably as Faisal listed clients gained through Malik and Hassan, proving demand for his shop. Ron's smirk faded, his allies exchanging glances, the air thick with unspoken tension. Ellen promised a review, her tone clipped, but Faisal saw the crack in her armor, a flicker of doubt in her carefully curated control. The tide began to turn. On November 18th, Miss Chen's advocacy paid off. The city dropped the zoning fine, citing administrative error, saving the shop from closure. The Windsor Cooperative signed a $7,500 monthly contract, moved by Zara's reels and Faisal's reputation, wired through Hassan's parts network. A Chatham fleet, sparked by Yusuf's flyers, added a $4,000 deal, filling the shop's bays for the first time in weeks. Aisha's bookkeeping gained 2 clients, Miss. Patel's referrals breaking the boycott, and the tax review was dismissed, the City Hall ally backpedaling under Chen's scrutiny. At school, Zara's teacher reinstated her debate team spot, Ethan's roll cut, the principal citing equity. Yusuf's coach restored his hockey line. Ethan benched, the team's chemistry excuse dropped. Ron, avoiding the shop, ceased his jabs, his influence waning as clients returned, drawn by the campaign's viral reach, 15,000 views by November 19th. Ellen's business network sent a cautious invite for Faisal to reapply, a reluctant nod to his defiance. A local diner breaking from Ellen's circle contracted Faisal for staff vehicle repairs, a $2,000 monthly deal, a quiet shift in the town's tides. The victories were hard-won, fragile, and incomplete. Sarnia's walls, though cracked, still stood, and the Raymonds knew their place was tenuous, their fight a daily act of survival. But they had carved a foothold, their shop a beacon of resilience in a city that had tried to erase them. On November 20th, Faisal stood in Raymond Auto Repair, the bays alive with the clatter of tools, the scent of oil and chai mingling in the air. Aisha, Zara, and Yusuf worked beside him, their faces weary but unbroken, the hum of a repaired engine a testament to their grit. Zara's reel, a montage of Faisal's wrench, Aisha's ledgers, Yusuf's flyers, and a starlit shop played on a tablet pinned to the wall like a flag. The slights, the rejections, the silence, they'd scarred them, but so had Aisha's steel, Zara's fire, Yusuf's hustle, Patel's warmth. They'd fought in the shadows, no crowds, no noise, and claimed their ground. Faisal touched the counter, its worn wood a heartbeat, and whispered, "This is our fight, our home. Share it, carry it, let it spark through every silence." He saw others, families like his, hidden but fierce, holding their story, passing it like a torch to light every corner, a flame no prejudice could extinguish. The shop's bays glowed under the fluorescence, Sarnia's skyline softening in the dusk outside, and for the first time in weeks, Faisal felt the weight lift, if only for a moment. They were Pakistani Canadians, their roots deep, their resolve unyielding, and Raymond Auto Repair was theirs, a testament to a fight that refused to fade.